everyone. Good morning. Happy Thursday. We will give this a second to kick in as we usually need to when we are on my cell phone device. So I will say it again. Hi, everyone. Happy Thursday. I am here. We are back, and I am just doing a little chat with me vlog today. And I hope that you guys can hear me okay because, as we know, we have to use my cell phone when my husband is at work and I don't have his phone available to me to record on. So I will be speaking into this speaker as loudly as possible so that my voice carries across. Make sure that your volume is all the way up if you want to hear my chat with me and story time. And if you are coming from my Crazy Days of Callan channel, where I do all Dollar Tree hauls over there in friend mail openings, I do Dollar Tree hauls on Saturdays, Mondays, and Wednesdays for you guys over on Crazy Days of Callan. And I like to share all of my finds through the Dollar Tree there with you. And then this channel here is more personal. It's more of a connection to the people that I am growing such great relationships with. And because the other channel is pertaining to hauling, and I do try to engage as much as I can on a personal level with stories about myself throughout my haul so that I can make sure that you guys are getting to know me as a person, even outside of just hauling. This channel is for my connecting further and more genuinely and openly about who I am as a human being. If you are interested to know why I am who I am, where I came from, and my stories that I like to bring you to just make sure that I am coming across and connecting with you guys as much as you are connecting with me. So this gives me a chance to do that. I also like to do hauls on this video as well, but everything outside of the Dollar Tree over here is, for hauling purposes, and other stores that I pick up clearance items that I might want to show you guys and share those finds with you. And also I like to vlog. I like to show you where I'm going, things that I may be doing that I feel like I want to take you guys with me and experience it. I also do chat with me's, as you will see here, where I'm just hanging out with you. This is like a friend to friend thing for me. I feel like I'm sitting in my living room and I have my friends over and we're just talking and getting to know one another better. So that is what I'm doing here. If you're not somebody that's interested in any of those things, then that's perfectly fine. I would rather you go find something that is more geared toward you and what your interests are, and I hope that you find that. But this channel right here, Crazy Callan Vlogs, is just for me to connect with good people that I am forming relationships with or that want to get to know me as a person. So today I am going to share with you a little story about why I came to be who I am as a person from my earlier years of childhood and some valuable lessons within this chat with me I hope come across to you guys that I learned myself. I am going to start. I have my coffee and I just got home from physical therapy. The house is quiet, my candles are burning. I'm not in full swing of my day yet, so I wanted to just engage with you right now while I have some downtime. I'm relaxed and I can come across in a very clear way before the hectic part of my day really commences. So again, I hope everybody is having a great start to their day, and let's get started. So I was born on July 6th of 1981, and I grew up in Massachusetts. I still currently reside here. I grew up with a single mom, and my mom raised me in my grandparents' household. We lived with my nana and my pa. I called my grandfather my pa, and we lived in a household with them. My mom worked third shift, and my grandparents were there with me to be overnight, so that's why we lived with them. But then we also continued living with them throughout my entire childhood, all the way up until 18 years old, so that my mom could help take care of my nana that became really, really ill. And by the time I was 12 years old, She had passed away at the young age of 51. Her name was Judy, and she was a Spitfire. She is Italian. She is just, loud and engaging and energetic, and she was a homebody. She actually had agoraphobia. She hadn't left the house in many, many years. As far as she could go was the outside yard porch. So we stayed with my Nana and my Pa so that my mom could help with her mom. We are very family oriented and we stick together like glue. We take care of one another and we make sure that we're always, always there for each other. My Pa lived with us, obviously, and he worked a great amount. My Pa worked his buns off, to be quite honest with you. All of the men in my family were really hard driving workhorses. We are a blue collared family. We lived, making ends meet, but us kids never knew it because everything that we did was with love, with a ton of food around us, and so much company, it wasn't even funny. So I grew up, the four of us in my household, with my uncle as well, that came and went until he joined the service. And his name was Kenny. Uncle Kenny is what I called him, and he was the best uncle ever, ever, ever. And my pa's name is actually Kenny as well. He was Kenny Sr. So they called my pa Big Kenny and then my uncle Little Kenny. So that was the core of my household. And I will show you some pictures of these people so that you know that these were my crew. And hold on because I got to bend a little bit. So this picture right here is of my Nana and my Pa and myself. So that's my Nana, and there's my Pa with his 80s hairdo. I was about, I would say, 4 in that picture. So this is my beautiful grandparents right here, and these are my mom's parents. I love the wood paneling in the background, and if you can see, I even had color in my life, even when I was young. So her rainbow house dress was hung up on a coat hanger on the door frame. And I looked through my albums and I do have a lot of pictures of my pa, but when I tell you my pa worked really, really hard, he worked really, really hard. He worked as a truck driver for a local lumber yard and he did that forever. I believe he worked at the company for 50 plus years. But outside of that full time job, he also pumped gas at a local gas station and uh, he drove car parts back and forth to different auto body shops. So he worked so hard for his family. My uncles all worked super hard, so I grew up with a really, really strong value of working hard, family oriented, making sure we stick together and we take care of one another. And the men were just that. They were great, great blue collared, hardworking men. So again, that's them. Now I will also show you a picture of my neighbors right off of my house, which was my great Nana Millie, the one that I most take after in my eccentricness. She was a ball of fire. She was wild right till the end. I remember she was about 79 when she passed. So I had her into my early 20s and she was a wild, wild, great Nana. She was just so much fun. She was bright eyed, and her blue eyeshadow, and her fuchsia lips, and her dyed bright orange hair. And she was just a ball of fun. She wore bunny ears even when it wasn't Christmas. She never matched. She wore blue knee highs and slipper socks and would scuff over from house to house, back and forth. Our family was always together. So they literally lived a hop, skip, and a jump. We lived in the house set toward the back, and they lived in the house right off of our side door. So our families were together all the time. So I will show you one of my favorite pictures of my girls. So this is my Nana Millie right here in her glory. So that was Nana Millie in her beautiful attire. No wonder why. I just love being myself and bright and colorful. There's my mom. And right here I would say I was about 5. I was a tall, tall girl. I always was. I was always one of the tallest in my class from kindergarten all the way up through high school. And so there I am on my Nana Judy's lap. So this Nana Judy, that's Nana Millie is her mom, and then that's my mom's mom. And so this was my crew, and this is one of my favorite pictures. I have this framed, and this is an extra copy. So there are my family members right there that I grew up day in and day out, and they were definitely involved every single day. I did have a great grandfather as well. I couldn't find any pictures to include in this video, but if I do, I'll show you in another one. So it was my great grandparents in the front house, and it was my family that lived in the back. I will also show you a picture of my Uncle Kenny. There's my mom's brother, and there's me. And I think I was 2 in this picture, if I believe I remember correctly. And unfortunately, my uncle, my heart, my soul, he was my best friend. He was in the military for many, many years. He had a lot of issues after coming out. He served for 20 plus years, and he passed away at 51 from complications with cancer pertaining to chemicals that were used in the wars that he was in the service. So my uncle is no longer with us, and he was right with me till the end, and I miss him. And rest in peace to my uncle that I love so incredibly much. And now the other picture I will show you is of me and my Nana Millie right here. And you can't see it, it's a little bit fuzzy, but that was her and my great grandfather's 25th wedding anniversary party. So that's me and her in that picture as well. And then one more of my Nana Judy and me when I was just a brand new little peanut. So those are my people. Those are my people. And I just absolutely miss them and love them so much. So I grew up in that blue collared household. We lived every single day amazingly. You know, us kids never wanted for anything because we never wanted anything. We had everything that meant the most to us. We had our family together. My uncles, my aunts, my cousins were always there. Everybody was always together. That was my home unit, but my entire family came together on a daily basis. And for weekends, from Friday until Sunday, they were at my house and we were in full swing. And at some point, I hope to find the picture of us all sitting around the table at my house, just everybody gathered together, because that is what it looked like every single day. After school, weekends, definitely summer vacations, Christmas vacations, everything in between, we were always together. And we all went out for beach pizza and just enjoyed ourselves being a family and just doing the basic things in life that we could afford. And that was how I started off my life, and it was a beautiful, beautiful life. So I am in love with the fact that I have all of these pictures with me and I can look back and remember those moments. So when I grew up through my teenage years, the rest of the way, my Nana had passed at 51 with diabetic complications when I was 12, and then I resided in my family home until I was 18, and then I had met my husband and moved on. So when I had met my husband very early on, I had known him from my younger years, my ex-husband and my son's biological father. I was with him for 10 years, and within that 10 years, we had our life together. We owned a house. We then became landlords and rented out that house to get another house right next door to my mom. We had cars. We had everything that we had wanted to have. as a family. We planned our son and started our life together as our own family unit. And we lived big. We lived big. I had the white picket fence type of lifestyle. Very early on, after my son was born, we started having difficulties in the marriage. And slowly but surely, everything started to become really, really difficult financially. He had left his job unexpectedly. He was going through some things that I won't get into his personal business, but that affected our marriage to one another greatly. I held on by the skin of my teeth throughout the last like 4 years of our marriage, trying to hold everything together. And it was not easy. I had to borrow from Peter to pay Paul. We were losing everything at a rapid rate. My marriage was dissolving. Um, my assets with him were being threatened to be taken away. So I did everything that I could possibly do to sustain our lifestyle and to continue having that security for my son that we had become accustomed to. But life had a different plan for us. And when it was time for me to make that hard decision after years, years, my son was 5.5 when I left my ex husband, and it was years of us struggling really, really badly. And he was in such a bad place that he was not willing to do anything outside of his comfort zone to try to rectify the situations that he created that made us so financially in a rut and was literally destroying our entire life. So, with infidelity and also with financial stress, I made the decision one day when I was at one of my jobs, because I had many at this point, trying to hold everything together, trying to pay all of these family members back for helping me out to get me out of situations so that our house wasn't going to get taken away from us and everything else. My cars weren't going to get repossessed. So I was at one of my jobs. He was home and he was with my son. And that day I knew for some reason that I had to make the biggest decision that I've ever had to make in my life. And I was going to have to give up everything to rebuild my life and make a secure environment and a happy environment for my son going forward. I started to panic as soon as my son was about 4.5, and realizing that he was more and more conscious of the fact that bad things were happening in his household. He was seeing mom sad, he was seeing dad stressed out, and us not getting along. And I didn't want that for him because I knew as the years progressed and he started seeing things that we were going to have an issue down the road with how he handled things that were going to be difficult. So I tried everything. We did marriage counseling. We saw financial advisors. I pulled us out of every hole I could possibly pull us out of. And then I had to make the choice. And I called him from that job that day and I said, I need to speak with you when we get home, and I need you to be ready to leave and we need to separate. So, without going into too many details, that was the basis of it. That day, everything changed in my entire life. So, all of these things that I had had, all of these things that we, had together as a family, a house that we were now landlords for, a house next door to my mom that we lived in, we 2 cars, all of these credit cards that were in his name that we used as a couple for renovations and things like that for our homes, that had acquired all of these debts. Everything needed to be dissolved for me to rebuild and start over and to become healthier within myself, to be able to give my son the life that I saw for him and that I wanted for him. I wanted him to grow up in that household where we don't need to have all of these materialistic things to be happy. We don't have to have, all of these stressors on our shoulders every single day. For these financial burdens to be happy. I want to live simply and I want to raise him in a home that is just filled and surrounded with love and stability and contentment and just able to really, really, really enjoy life and what it has to offer in a minimalistic way. So, and I needed to become healthy myself, mind, body, and soul, because after years of the stress and struggle and sadness, it had taken it had taken the worst toll on me possible. So, my son did have a good childhood. I shielded him as much as humanly possible from anything and everything that I could control. And we did things as a family, with a lot of effort. But at that 5.5 year old mark, I knew things needed to drastically change for me to make a better life for him. So we did that. And that day, it was over. My husband moved out. I stayed with my son in the house that we were losing, and the bank was going to foreclose on my home. I knew that, and this time I was working with them to just allow that to happen. I hired a divorce lawyer after a couple of weeks of really getting myself to the point of realizing the decision that I had made. I hired a divorce lawyer. I hired a bankruptcy attorney. And this is just my journey. This is just my journey. And I don't have any problems talking about my life and who I am because I feel like I've learned so much from it that even if one person takes a little bit of, of hope from it, that's all I care to share. A little bit of hope that you can come out on this other side no matter what your situation is, no matter what you're going through. So I hired those two things, the bankruptcy and the divorce lawyer, and I let go of everything. And he gave me full power to do so because he had said, if you want this to be over, you're going to deal with it. So that's what I did. I had to deal with it. As sad as everything was and as devastated as everything was, because I loved my husband and I wanted things to work out and I wanted him to get better and I wanted to figure things out. But I knew that being together was not going to create that reality for him. And I needed to walk away to make him see the error that, we had going on. And I hoped that in the beginning, the first few months, that he was going to realize and fix things and maybe come back. And then I would have stopped the divorce. But that isn't the way that it turned out. So we went forward. It took us 3.5 years to get divorced because it was just a long, drawn out fight on his side of things, and he did everything he could to prolong the inevitable. We dissolved all of our assets. I let the repossession people come and get my car. I had nothing. I literally had nothing. I had no house. I had no cars. I had no money at all because I only worked part time. I worked a couple of part time jobs so that I could pull us through because I still needed to be a presence for my son. He still wasn't in full time school, and my mom, was had her own situation going on, and she helped out a lot. But there was times that she wasn't available to, and I had two part-time jobs to go around what I needed to do because being a mom was my number one priority, to be there with my son, especially through this difficult time. He was the breadwinner, since we started our life together. And so he made all of the income for a really long time until he stopped working and then never really gained another employment for quite a long time, which got us in the situation that we were in. So we struggled. I had no food in my house for a period of time. I only had food for my son. And I also had to have Christmases that were from the Dollar Tree. And I made it look like Santa Claus brought the entire world to my house. But in reality, it was all Dollar Tree items. And my son loved every single bit of it. Mind you, at that point he was about 4 to 5 years old. It was those two Christmases. I bought things from the Dollar Tree, and I also had to go to a church. I had to go to a church to get a donation box for gifts. I also had, for those 2 years, I also had our meals boxed up from a local charity and given to us so that we could have Christmas dinner and Easter dinner for those 2 years that we were at our worst point. And these are things that I never thought that I would ever have to do in my life. But you know what? It was a humbling moment for me because I had lived so many years just, you know, really well and had everything in that white picket fence type of lifestyle. And then in the blink of an eye, it was gone and it was just crumbling further and further. So the Dollar Tree is near and dear to my heart for so many reasons. And this is one of them because if the Dollar Tree wasn't around, there were times I couldn't get, my son gifts for his birthday, for the holidays, for Christmas and things like that, Easter, and also the charities that helped us get through months of paying our mortgage, helped us get through months of paying our electric bills and gas bills, and also providing us food and everything else. And I will state right away that I am an extremely private person at this point in my life. I grew up being very, very proud, and my pride had me at a point in my life where I had introverted into my own situation. I didn't share my information with my parents. I didn't share them with my grandparents. And there was a long period of time when we didn't have food in the house other than Isaiah's food. That's what I spent money on when I needed it, or going to the food pantries for those 2 years that we were at our worst point. And I did not share any of that information with anybody, not my best friends, nobody. I kept it to myself. I held everything in, and I'm not saying that that is a good thing. That is probably the worst decision that I could have ever made because I took on all of that stress, all of that pain, all of that disappointment, and just pure sadness. And I took it on by myself because it really wasn't even making my husband feel like, he needed to even stress over it. I just took it all on my own. So I really, really stayed to myself. I didn't allow company to come over because I didn't want them to see inside of my refrigerator. I didn't want them to see inside of my cabinets. I didn't want them to see that we were, selling things off so that I could pay the bills. I didn't want anybody to see that for long periods of time. I didn't allow anybody to come to my home. So if it wasn't for food banks, if it wasn't for local churches, if it wasn't for assistance programs like food stamps through those 2 years, I was not in a position where I could have even made enough money to sustain what we had together financially with all of that stress on us. There's no way, plus raising my son. So ask for help. Put your pride aside and take those little moments of help that you need to get yourself to a better point and a better position. And tell people that you feel close to and that you trust that you need them in whatever way, to listen, to talk to make sure that you're letting off steam and that you are confiding in somebody and you're not letting it keep you awake at night like I did for many, many years. I wished I hadn't done it that way, but that's why I will never do it again. I will make sure that I speak up, whenever I'm feeling the pressure of the world on me because it made me very, very sick for a long time. So we dissolved everything. It took years to do it. We lost everything. Everything, everything, everything. So I had my son and I had myself, and I sold everything I could possibly sell before they locked the doors of my house and the bank took it back. They I sold my entire life. Everything and anything that I thought that I would have forever was gone. And I made ends meet. I worked 4 jobs while I was a single parent for that first year so that my son and I could afford our own apartment. My family 100% would have helped me in so many ways if I had been truthful and honest and not held my pride so high to be able to tell them the truth of what was going on. But I felt like I failed. I felt like I was, you know, to blame in some way that we had gotten to this position, and I felt defeated. So you know, I had to be truthful at that point when I knew that I had left my husband. I knew that, my house was going to be gone in a period of time. My cars were no longer, with me. I had to walk places to get groceries, get back and forth to work on the bus, and things like that. And so once my house was within days of being taken back, I had to let my mom know I needed a place to stay. She lived in a very, very small house with my grandpa, which is my pot. My Nana had been gone for many years at this point. And I let my mom know that it was me, my son, 2 mattresses, all of his toys, and our clothes. And anything over that I did keep, I put in a storage unit. And mind you, I did all of the moving. I did everything all by myself. I had yard sales for weeks, for weeks. I sold everything I could possibly sell just to make cash so that we could get a little bit ahead, just him and I. And my mother said, come. She had 1 bedroom that was available on the top floor. I put myself, my son, our 2 mattresses, his toys, and our clothes stacked up. I started working the 4 jobs. 2 of them he could come with me to. They were overnights with dementia patients at their homes privately, and he was able to come with me. So he would sleep overnights with me on an airbed while I took care of these people. During the day, I worked at a day program with developmentally disabled individuals. I did after school programs, and I worked as an assistant substitute teacher for my district. So I climbed very slowly, very steadily. I refused to take anybody's car as a handout, and I took the bus, and my mom let me take her car to go back and forth to work because it was a little bit further away for 1 job. And when I did that, then I would bring it right back to her at the end of the day, and then that was it. So slowly but surely, I gained my confidence back. I found myself again as a person and not just a mom, a wife. I found myself as a human being again. And within that first year, we had obtained our own first apartment that I had ever provided all by myself, all alone. And I went and got that for us. It was only a 1 bedroom. I gave him the bedroom and I slept in the living room on a mattress. And that is what we did. And you know what? That was the happiest time of our lives. We were so happy in that 1 bedroom apartment. There wasn't one day that we were not thrilled and doing something fun and just enjoying life. And there was no more, pain around us. And we started to do things that I had never thought I was going to be able to provide for my son or give him as experiences. And everything was always on a budget. It was always well thought out and well planned to make sure that it was a good choice for it to happen. And I did it on my own, which was a really, really big thing for me. And I also, with my first taxes that I got back for myself, I purchased my first car that was in my name. It was a little beater, a little old car, and it was from an auto place right down the street. It was a private sale. It was $2,000. I bought it with my tax return, and it was like a 1999, and that was fine because at this point it was still only 2009. So I mean, it wasn't horribly old, and that thing took me for like almost 7 years before it died out. But I put a lot of miles on that thing, and I that has been my favorite car I've ever owned. And it was old, it had a lot of miles, and I just took care of it, and it got me everywhere I needed to be, and I owned it outright. I didn't have a payment on it or anything, and I was just that was my favorite car, my favorite apartment, and we had such great memories built into those walls there that once it was time to move from that apartment, my heart was broken because I felt like that was my new beginning with my child, and it was just so meaningful to me. So I'm going to end this here because the lesson of this story is this, okay? We are going to be high, we are going to be low. It's how you take those highs and lows. And there's a lot of things that I regret, for how I handled, the difficult moments, but I had to go through those times to learn from them. And I certainly made sure that I did pay attention to the lessons that were being thrown at me left and right for years. As difficult as it was to go through it, I knew that I needed to take something from it for my future and for me to become wiser and better as a human being. And so I really worked hard and very diligently on myself as a human being through those really, really low points and difficult moments in my life. And I climbed back up. And you know what? There is a ton of curveballs that come and go from my days all of these years, even from that moment. There has never been one perfect day in my life. But I grew up in a very humble beginning. And then I had those years where we had all of these materialistic things that, honest to goodness, like still didn't even mean a lot to me. In those moments, I was so brought up in a home that just valued family, valued like, just the basics of life. And then I lived those years with my ex-husband having all of these things that I felt like we overdid it. And I wasn't really getting out of life what I had hoped to while we owned all these things and all these bills were rolling in and stuff. And to each their own. Everybody has their own thought process. Everybody likes what they like, wants what they want. Nobody's getting judged over here at all, for liking nice things, expensive things, or anything like that. I'm personally just saying that I would rather live simply and enjoy things that the world provides, that family provides, like company and good human beings and positivity, and the sun going up and the sun going down every day, and what we can take from just lessons that the world is offering us and experiences that you can do without costing you too much money. So that is why I am who I am. That is why I absolutely have my heart wrapped around the Dollar Tree. It got me through so many holidays, so many important milestones where I needed to celebrate them. If it wasn't for the Dollar Tree and going and spending $5, $10 to make a little moment special that needed to be celebrated, I wouldn't have been able to make those memories and have those pictures to look back on, to see that time when I didn't take for granted what I needed to do to you know to tell somebody I love them. So that's it. I love you guys so much. Thank you for being here with me if you watched this video. Again, this video is just to connect with people that want to know me as a person, that want to know my journey and who I am, because again, I like to try to put as much little details of who I am into my Dollar Tree hauls as I'm hauling for you guys. But here I am going to get into the nitty gritty so that for the people that I am forming these great relationships with, and you tell me so much about you personally, I want to make sure I'm sharing my life with you guys too. So that's it. I love you guys so much. We're almost at 40 minutes. If you made it through this video, please leave a rainbow down below and let me know. And I will see you guys if you're coming from Crazy Days of Callan. I will see you guys over on Crazy Days of Callan on Happy Saturday Dollar Tree haul. So I love you so, so, so much. Remember, we go up, we go down, but we can get back up again. And it might be in a different way, but you know what? The journey is taking us in that direction. And we need to just do the best we can to roll with it, ask for help, talk to people, reach out, gain a community around you that is meaningful to you and that you know you can trust and that will be a part of every single day, the good and the bad days. All right, I love you guys. I love you. I love you. And thank you for being here with me. Bye, everyone. Have a beautiful day.